So there is this shiny new factory in Texas, built by a cool $500 million investment, all set to churn out more military gear for the Russia-Ukraine saga. Because wars need more toys. The US and its European pals have been on a spending spree, shipping off billions in military hardware to Ukraine. Goodbye stockpiles. Despite all these goodies, Team Zelensky keeps taking hits from Russia's military juggernaut. Seems like money and ammo can't buy victory. So why is Biden tossing taxpayer cash into the ring when they can't seem to shift the tide?
Welcome to TFI Global, the antidote to mass delusion.
The ongoing Ukraine proxy conflict continues to be a boon for the US military industrial complex, feeding its insatiable appetite for spending and production. A new manufacturing facility in Texas costing a hefty $500 million has been unveiled to keep churning out military gear that apparently Ukraine can't even get enough of. Even if US succeeds in producing the same amount of ammunition, it will always fall behind the quality and efficacy of the equipment. NATO's deep dive into the Ukraine conflict has sparked a real shopping spree for ammunition, leaving both US and EU stocks feeling a bit tight. The Pentagon is banking heavily on its latest toy, the General Dynamics facility in Mesquite, Texas, to keep up with the skyrocketing demand for ammo. Because what's a conflict without bullets? Over in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, General Dynamics Ordnance and Tactical Systems (GD.N) are cranking out a cool 36,155 shells every single month. That's a lot of numbers to imagine. Meanwhile, down at the Universal Artillery Projectile Lines facility in Texas, they are thinking of producing 30,000 units of shiny new machines monthly just for Ukraine. Talk about keeping the war wheels greased, but how much they can actually pump out is a question. Funding for this Mesquite marvel was neatly tucked into those nifty supplemental spending bills from fiscal years 2022 and 2023 because nothing says strategic like pouring money into more military toys. Anyway, the US military frenzy never denies more ammunition. With 3 whole production lines to its name, this facility is thinking of producing all sorts of shells and mortars. After they are done baking shells in Mesquite, they are shipping them off to Burlington, Iowa to get filled up because even shells need a good fill up. By 2025, they are aiming to hit a grand total of 100,000 units per month. Ambitious. But hey, you gotta meet those military needs, right? The US and its European buddies have been throwing around billions in top-notch military hardware to Ukraine, which has left US's own stockpiles a bit lighter. Whoops. The US has enemies all around the world. How would it manage to protect itself when it is spending every ammunition unit on Ukraine, whose victory is just a utopic idea? Why is the US still catering to the demand of Ukraine when it knows it can't outmatch Russia? Despite all these shiny toys, the Zelensky crew in Ukraine is still taking a beating from Russia's military might. So much for high-tech solutions. Meanwhile, American defense giants are raking in the cash thanks to all this conflict buzz. Who knew war could be so profitable? And let's not forget the slick lobbying moves in Congress, ensuring that military spending keeps flowing like a river. They love democracy in action. Despite all this help, the Ukraine conflict remains as messy as ever, proving that even with all the firepower, victory isn't always on the cards. Russia, on the other hand, seems to be making steady gains despite Western aid pouring in. Russia is making its rubles count with its self-sufficient military-industrial complex. US's taxpayer-funded military gear is doing nothing in Ukraine. Therefore, questions linger about whether it's really making a dent in the conflict's outcome. The answer is no, of course. But hey, at least the military-industrial complex is having a field day with all this conflict. War sure has a way of boosting sales. And while diplomats press their hands over long-term implications, one thing is for sure. Western involvement in Ukraine is shaping up to be quite the geopolitical roller coaster. Biden's spending spree with American taxpayer money might need a closer look. After all, if the equipment's not cutting it, maybe it's time to rethink the shopping list, store, and of course, the buyer.